Maya's hands trembled as she lifted the leather portfolio from the restaurant table. Expensive, heavy, wrong. Unless fate had a cruel sense of humor, this didn't belong in her section at Romano's. Inside, her entire life stared back at her. Emma's medical records, photos of her 5-year-old daughter at school, her apartment address, bank statements showing the $174,000 she still needed for Emma's cochlear implant surgery. And then, the note. I can help with Emma's surgery. Meet me at Millennium Park Fountain, 11 p.m. tonight. Come alone. You're running out of time. Signed with just one letter. A. 3 months. That's all she had left before Emma's surgical window closed forever, before her daughter's chance at hearing disappeared. The distinguished man who'd been watching her all evening, communicating through typed notes because he was deaf. He knew everything about her. Everything. If you've ever felt like someone was watching you, subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what you would do in Maya's situation. But what Maya didn't know was that the man who'd been watching her had a secret that would explain everything and change both their lives forever. The Friday evening rush at Romano's restaurant was in full swing, and Maya Rodriguez's feet were screaming. She'd been on them for 6 hours straight, navigating between marble floors that reflected the glow of crystal chandeliers hanging overhead like expensive jewelry she'd never owned. Her smile was plastered on, the kind server's perfect after years of practice. Bright, accommodating, empty. More water for table 12, she muttered to herself, mentally tallying the tips in her apron pocket. $43 so far. If she kept this pace, maybe 70 by closing. Another grain of sand in the mountain she needed to climb. $174,000. That's what stood between Emma and hearing. A child's laugh pierced through the dinner chatter, high and carefree, and Maya's chest tightened. She glanced toward the sound. A little boy, maybe 6, chattering away to his parents about soccer practice. His mother listened with the casual ease of someone who'd never had to wonder if their child could hear their voice. Emma's world was silent. Had been since birth. Maya shook off the thought and approached table 7, where a couple in designer clothes barely glanced up from their phones as she refilled their wine glasses. She'd learned not to expect kindness from people who wore watches that cost more than her yearly rent. But tonight, someone was watching her differently. She could feel eyes on her back as she moved through her section, not the usual dismissive glances or inappropriate stares she'd grown used to. This was something else. Intense. Deliberate. Maya's mind drifted to that morning, kneeling on the floor of her cramped Pilsen apartment as Emma practiced the signs she'd been teaching her. Mama. Love. Hungry. Basic survival language for a 5-year-old navigating a world not built for her. Rent was due in 5 days, Emma's prescription refill in 3. And she'd already spent next week's grocery money on last week's emergency doctor visit when Emma had an ear infection. The calculation was always there, running in the background of her thoughts like a cruel computer program. How many more months? How many more double shifts? How many more years before Emma's window closes forever? She just didn't know yet that someone had been planning this moment for weeks. That tonight, everything would change. Table 14. Corner booth. Single occupant. Maya grabbed her notepad and approached, her customer service smile firmly in place. The man seated there looked to be in his mid-30s, distinguished in a way that spoke of old money and careful grooming. His suit was expensive, not flashy, but the kind of tailored perfection that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Dark hair, sharp jawline, confident posture. But something was different about him. When Maya reached the table, he didn't speak. Instead, he held up his phone. Screen facing her. Typed words appeared. "Good evening. I'd like to start with water, no ice, and a few minutes to review the menu." Maya blinked. "Of course," she said slowly, clearly. "Take your time." He nodded, a small smile crossing his face, and returned to studying the menu. Deaf, Maya realized. Or nonverbal for some reason. She'd dealt with difficult customers before, demanding, rude, impossible to please. But this man was different. Patient, polite. Every request came through typed messages on his phone, and he waited calmly for her responses. What she didn't notice at first was how he watched her. Not just when she was at his table, but when she moved through her section, when she took orders from other customers, when she laughed at something her coworkers said, when her shoulders sagged during a rare, quiet moment. His eyes followed her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "That guy's been staring at you all night," whispered Carla, her fellow waitress, as they passed each other near the kitchen. "Should I get Marco?" Marco was head of security, a mountain of a man who'd bounced more than a few handsy customers over the years. "No, he's fine," Maya said, though unease crept up her spine. "He's just different." Throughout the evening, Maya noticed him making notes on a tablet between courses. Long, detailed notes. Every time she checked on him, he seemed to be observing her interactions with other staff, with customers, with the world around her. What she didn't realize was that every gesture she'd made that evening had confirmed what he already suspected. When he finished his meal, a modest order of pasta and salad, he left cash on the table. Maya collected it after he departed, expecting maybe 15 or 20%. $500 on a $120 bill. Her hands shook as she counted it twice, 3 times. And then she saw it. The leather portfolio left behind on the booth seat. Expensive leather, the kind that smelled rich and felt heavy with importance. The portfolio felt heavy in her hands, heavier than leather and paper should feel. Something told her not to open it. Something told her to leave it with the hostess, mark it as lost and found, let someone else deal with it. But her shift was over, and curiosity, terrible, dangerous curiosity, won out. The restaurant back room was small and cluttered with staff lockers and boxes of supplies. Maya sat on a folding chair, the leather portfolio across her lap, her heart hammering in her chest for reasons she couldn't name yet. She opened it. The first page was a photograph. Emma. Her Emma. Walking into her kindergarten building, backpack almost bigger than she was, pigtails bouncing. He knows where her daughter goes to school. Maya's hands began to shake. She flipped the page. Medical records. Emma's entire medical history, from birth to her most recent audiology appointment. Diagnosis, bilateral sensorineural hearing loss. Recommended treatment, cochlear implant surgery. Cost, $180,000. Insurance coverage, denied. How did he get these? Her breath came faster, shallow, and sharp. Next page, her apartment address. Photos of the building exterior, records of her employment history, not just Romano's, but the 3 other restaurants she'd worked at over the past 5 years. Bank statements showing her pathetic savings account balance, credit card debt, student loan payments she could barely afford. Her entire life, documented and analyzed like a case study. Her chest tightened like someone was squeezing her lungs. The room felt smaller, the air thinner. Her vision blurred at the edges. At the bottom of the portfolio, tucked beneath all the documentation, was a handwritten note. The script was elegant, careful, the ink slightly raised on expensive cardstock. I can help with Emma's surgery. Meet me at Millennium Park Fountain, 11 p.m. tonight. Come alone. You're running out of time. Just one letter for a signature. A. 3 months. That's all she had left before Emma turned 6. 3 months before the neural pathways for language processing became significantly less adaptable, as Dr. Patterson had explained in his quiet, sympathetic voice. 3 months before her daughter's best chance at hearing slipped away forever, and $174,000 still to go. The door opened. Carla poked her head in. "Maya, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Maya slammed the portfolio shut, clutching it to her chest. "I'm fine, just tired." Carla's concerned expression said she didn't believe it, but she nodded anyway. "Get some rest. You've been working yourself to death." After Carla left, Maya sat in the silence, staring at the portfolio. He's either a stalker or her only hope. Both possibilities terrified her. She pulled out her phone, called Mrs. Chen, her elderly neighbor who watched Emma during her shifts. "Hi, Mrs. Chen. I'm so sorry, but something came up at work. Can you stay with Emma a little longer tonight, just until midnight?" She lied about why. She lied because the truth, "I'm meeting a man who's been surveilling my daughter," sounded insane even in her own head. But what choice did she have? Emma's doctor's warning echoed in her mind. After age 6, the neural pathways for language processing become significantly less adaptable. 3 months. Running out of time. Maya made her decision. She had to go. As Maya walked toward Millennium Park Fountain at 10:55 p.m., her phone clutched in one hand with 911 pre-dialed. She had no idea that the man waiting for her in the shadows had spent the last 6 weeks learning everything about her for one reason. Her daughter reminded him of the sister he'd failed to save. And tonight, he was going to offer Maya a deal that would either rescue Emma's future or trap them both in something neither could escape. January in Chicago meant bone-deep cold that cut through cheap coats and settled in your marrow. Maya's breath formed white clouds as she walked through Millennium Park, the fountain ahead dark and still in winter hibernation. Streetlights cast long shadows across empty pathways. The city noise felt distant, muted. She was alone, or almost. A figure stood near the fountain, tall, broad-shouldered, hands in the pockets of an expensive coat. The man from the restaurant. As she approached, close enough to see his face in the lamplight, he turned and began signing. His hands moved fluidly, purposefully, forming shapes and gestures Maya didn't understand. ASL, American Sign Language. She'd learned a few dozen signs for Emma, basic needs, simple emotions. But this was complex, rapid, full sentences she couldn't begin to interpret. Frustration crossed his face when she didn't respond. He reached for his phone. The screen illuminated his features as he typed, "I'm sorry for frightening you. There was no other way to make you listen." Maya's voice came out harder than she intended, sharpened by fear. "You investigated my daughter. You know where she goes to school. You have her medical records. That's not concern. That's stalking." He typed faster now, longer paragraphs that he held up for her to read. "My name is Alexander Chen. When I was 16, my younger sister Lily died. She was 8 years old. She had hearing loss, untreated because my parents didn't believe she needed intervention. They were engineers, both of them. Brilliant, successful people who thought technology alone would solve everything. My father's company succeeded. We became wealthy, but too late to save Lily. Complications from untreated hearing loss led to meningitis. She died in a hospital room while doctors told us that earlier intervention might have prevented it. Maya's anger faltered, replaced by something more complicated. Sympathy warring with suspicion. He continued typing. 3 weeks ago, you brought Emma to the restaurant during an emergency child care situation. I was there for a business dinner. I saw you teaching her sign language in the corner booth while she ate chicken fingers. Your hands signing, I love you. Her small hands signing back. My parents never learned to sign with Lily. Never. They bought her hearing aids, expensive equipment, the best audiologists money could buy. But they never bothered to learn her language. You're a waitress working double shifts, barely making ends meet, and you're doing for Emma what my parents, with all their education and resources, never did for Lily. Maya's throat tightened. She didn't want to feel empathy for this man who'd invaded her privacy. But the pain in his words was real, unmistakable. So you stalked us? She asked. That's your solution. I needed to understand your situation. To know what Emma needed, what you needed, how I could help without being dismissed as another wealthy person trying to buy absolution. And what do you want from me? Maya's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Why Emma? Why us? His response came quickly. I will pay for Emma's entire surgery, $180,000, all costs covered. But I need something from you. What he said next made her blood run cold. What could I possibly have that you need? He typed, I need an ASL interpreter, someone I can trust. Work for me for 3 months and Emma gets her surgery. All costs covered, no strings attached afterward. Maya stared at the screen, her mind racing. Why would you need me? There are professional interpreters, people with actual qualifications. I need someone who understands what it means to fight for someone who can't hear, someone with real stakes. I'm launching a new accessibility division at Chen Industries. I need someone who won't let me take the easy route. Someone who knows what families actually need, not what consultants think they need. The truth about his sister explained everything, except what he wanted from her. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. This is insane. I'm a waitress. You're a billionaire CEO. What could I possibly teach you? His next words would force Maya to choose between her pride and her daughter's future. Alexander's fingers flew across his phone screen. My parents were engineers with PhDs who never learned to sign with their deaf daughter. Credentials don't mean much if you miss the fundamentals. I'm not a charity case, Maya said, her voice sharp with defensive pride. The same pride that had kept her working 70-hour weeks rather than asking for help. The same pride that had isolated her from friends who'd offered babysitting or loans she couldn't repay. This isn't charity, Alexander typed. I need your expertise as Emma's mother. You've been researching hearing loss interventions for 5 years. You know more than most specialists about what actually works for families. You know what it's like to navigate a healthcare system that treats deaf children as problems to solve rather than people to support. Maya's jaw tightened. Her hands clenched and unclenched at her sides, physical manifestation of the war happening inside her. Pride versus desperation, independence versus Emma's future. Why the investigation? she demanded. Why not just ask? Walk up to me like a normal person and make your offer. Alexander's response came after a long pause. Because you would have said no. Everyone says no to me. They see the money and assume I'm buying something. They assume I'm trying to control them or own them, or that I have ulterior motives. I needed to understand your situation well enough to make an offer you'd actually consider. An offer that makes sense. Employment, not charity. Exchange of value, not pity. Maya wanted to be angry. She wanted to feel violated, manipulated, cornered. And part of her did. But another part. The part that had spent countless nights calculating impossible math. The part that had watched Emma struggle in a world not built for her. That part was listening. What exactly would I be doing? She asked. Interpreting what? For whom? Board meetings, client presentations, staff communications. I run a technology company, and I'm about to launch a division focused on accessibility features for deaf and hard-of-hearing users. I need someone who can interpret not just my words, but my intent. Someone who can tell me when I'm missing the point. Someone who won't be impressed by my money or intimidated by my position. What he revealed next made her realize the investigation went even deeper than she'd thought. I know you corrected Emma's preschool teacher about proper ASL grammar. I know you taught yourself through YouTube videos and community college courses you couldn't afford to finish. I know you've contacted 17 different nonprofits looking for surgical grants. I know you work 70-hour weeks and haven't bought new shoes in 11 months. Maya's breath caught. The level of detail was stunning, invasive, terrifying, but also thorough, strategic. This wasn't an impulse from a guilty rich man. This was calculated, purposeful. If I say yes, Maya said slowly, what happens if I can't finish the 3 months? What if it's too much, or I'm not good enough, or... Emma gets her surgery regardless. That clause is non-negotiable. I've already drafted a contract with my attorney. If you quit, if I fire you, if circumstances change. Emma's medical trust remains fully funded. The choice before her was impossible. Accept help from a man who'd invaded her privacy, or watch her daughter's window close forever. I need to meet with Emma's surgeon first, Maya said, her voice shaking. Confirm you're legitimate. And I need a contract that protects Emma in writing, not just your word. Alexander nodded immediately and typed, Monday morning, 9 a.m., Northwestern Memorial Hospital. My attorney will be there with the contract. But there was something he wasn't telling her. Something about his sister's death that explained his desperation. She could see it in his eyes, in the way his fingers hesitated before hitting send on certain messages. Maya turned to leave, then stopped. Why Lily? Why does Emma remind you of her specifically? Alexander's hands paused over his phone. For a long moment, he didn't type anything. Then, same age when Lily's symptoms worsened, same bright curiosity despite the limitations, same determination. Emma signs with such precision. I watched her that day at the restaurant. She wasn't frustrated by not hearing. She was engaged, focused, learning. Lily had that same quality before she stopped trying. The grief in his words was palpable, even through text. I'm sorry, Maya said, and meant it. About Lily. Thank you for giving me a chance to honor her memory. Maya nodded and pulled her coat tighter against the cold. They exchanged phone numbers. First actual connection established beyond surveillance and documentation. His contact info felt surreal in her phone. Alexander Chen. CEO, billionaire, the man who knew everything about her life. As she walked away, heading back toward the L station, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then thought, what if it's Emma? What if something happened? She pressed the green button. Maya. The voice stopped her cold. 2 years. 2 years since she'd heard that voice, since David had walked out of their apartment with a duffel bag and empty promises to send money when he got settled. We should talk about Emma, David continued, his tone casual, like he was suggesting coffee. I heard you're in touch with Alexander Chen. That's interesting. I have rights, you know, as Emma's father. You abandoned us, Maya said, her voice barely controlled. You have no rights. We'll see what a judge says. I've been getting my life together, Maya. I'm ready to be a father now. And I'm concerned about the environment Emma's in. Spending time with strange men, you making decisions without consulting me. Her world tilted. How do you know about Alexander? David's laugh was ugly. It's a small world. I'll be in touch. The line went dead. Maya stood frozen on the sidewalk, phone clutched in her hand. How does her ex know about Alexander already? She'd met him barely an hour ago. The surveillance, the documentation. Had David been watching her too? Her phone buzzed again. Text from Alexander. Are you home safe? She didn't respond. Couldn't. Her mind was spinning with new calculations, new fears layering onto old ones. Emma's surgery. David's sudden reappearance. Alexander's mysterious motivations. The 3 threads tangled together in ways she couldn't unravel. As Maya rushed home to her sleeping daughter, her phone buzzing with another call from her ex that she didn't answer. She had no idea that someone else had been watching her meeting with Alexander. Marcus Webb, Alexander's business rival, had been monitoring Chen's movements for months, looking for leverage. And he just found it. A poor single mother, suddenly connected to one of Chicago's wealthiest men. The photographs he'd taken tonight would change everything. But first, he needed to find out exactly how desperate Maya really was, and what secrets Alexander Chen was hiding that would make this connection worth exploiting. Monday morning arrived with crystalline winter sunlight that made Maya's exhaustion more visible. She'd barely slept. Emma's soft breathing beside her on the fold-out couch, the only thing keeping her panic at bay. Northwestern Memorial Hospital's administrative wing smelled like expensive carpet and disinfectant. Maya sat in a conference room that probably cost more to furnish than her annual salary. Alexander across from her, a sharp-eyed attorney in a tailored suit between them. The hospital administrator, Dr. Patricia Hughes, reviewed documents on her tablet. Mr. Chen has established a medical trust in Emma Rodriguez's name, fully funded for cochlear implant surgery and 2 years of follow-up care, including speech therapy, audiology appointments, and device maintenance. Maya's throat tightened. It was real. Actually real. Ms. Rodriguez, Dr. Hughes continued, I want to be clear. This trust is irrevocable. Regardless of any employment arrangement you enter with Mr. Chen, Emma's medical care is secured. The Hospital Ethics Board has reviewed and approved this donation. It's legitimate. Emma's surgeon, Dr. Patterson, joined them via video call. His kind face filled the screen. Maya, if the trust clears verification, which it will, we can schedule Emma's surgery for 3 weeks from today. The timing is ideal given her age and language development stage. 3 weeks. Emma would hear in 3 weeks. The attorney slid a contract across the mahogany table. 3 months of employment, 40 hours per week as ASL interpreter and accessibility consultant. Weekly salary of $2,000, plus benefits. And this clause, he pointed, protects Emma's trust regardless of employment status. Mr. Chen cannot revoke the medical funding under any circumstances. Maya's hands shook as she picked up the pen. What does he get if I quit? Nothing, the attorney said simply. Mr. Chen insisted on that specific provision. Alexander typed on his phone and slid it across the table. You're doing the brave thing. Accepting help isn't weakness. Maya signed the contract, her signature messy from her trembling hand. She was crying and didn't realize it until a tear splattered on the page. What she didn't know was that her ex-husband had already contacted Alexander's office that morning, leaving a voicemail that Alexander's assistant had flagged as concerning. David Rodriguez was making moves. The contract was airtight, almost too perfect. What wasn't written down? As Maya left the hospital, she had no idea she was being photographed. Chen Industries occupied floors 30 through 35 of a glass tower on Wacker Drive that reflected Lake Michigan like a mirror. Maya stood in the lobby Tuesday morning, staring up at the soaring atrium, and felt like a fraud. 2 weeks ago, she'd been refilling water glasses. Now she was here, in this place where everyone wore designer clothes and moved with corporate purpose. Like a swan in a junkyard, she thought. I don't belong here. Alexander's assistant, Jennifer Park, greeted her with professional politeness that didn't quite reach her eyes. Young, efficient, skeptical. Mr. Chen is in a board meeting. I'll show you to your office. Office. Maya had an office. It was small, barely more than a converted storage room. But it had a desk, a computer, and a window overlooking the Chicago River. She'd never had a window at work before. Your first interpretation session is at 2, Jennifer said. Board meeting about the new accessibility features for our mobile platform. Mr. Chen will brief you beforehand. The morning crawled by. Maya studied ASL grammar resources online, reviewed technical vocabulary she might need, and tried not to feel like an imposter. At 1:45, Alexander appeared at her door. He began signing, then caught himself and typed, Ready? No, Maya said honestly. But let's do it anyway. The boardroom was all glass walls and leather chairs. 10 people, mostly men in expensive suits, looked up when she and Alexander entered. Several looked confused. One whispered something to his neighbor. Alexander signed to Maya. Translate as I sign. Don't soften anything. The meeting began. Maya interpreted Alexander's signed comments about user interface design, accessibility standards, and market positioning. Her voice felt small in the large room, but she pushed through. Then a board member presented mock-ups for an ASL video call feature. Maya watched Alexander sign his concerns, translated them. The grammatical structure assumes ASL follows English syntax, but that's not how the language works. This interface will confuse native signers. The presenter, a man in his 50s with a dismissive smile, cut her off. We have professional consultants for that. Maya felt Alexander's frustration in his sharp hand movements. Before she could translate his response, she heard herself saying, Your consultants clearly don't have deaf children. This interface won't work for parents who sign primarily. You've designed for deaf people who think in English and translate to ASL. That's not your primary user base. The room went silent. Alexander signed to her directly, Thank you, then typed for the board. Ms. Rodriguez is right. Redesign it. After the meeting, Alexander typed, "You see things they miss because you live it. Don't apologize for that. What happened at that appointment would change how Maya saw Alexander completely." Late afternoon, Alexander typed, "Emma's pre-surgical appointment is Thursday. I'd like to meet her if that's okay." Maya's protective instincts flared, then settled. "Okay, but if you upset her, I won't, I promise." But someone else was tracking her movements, someone who saw opportunity in her vulnerability. Thursday afternoon, Northwestern Memorial's pediatric audiology waiting room was decorated with colorful murals and small chairs. Emma sat next to Maya, swinging her legs, curious eyes watching everyone. When Alexander arrived, Emma leaned close to Maya and signed, "Who's that?" "The tall man Mommy works for," Maya signed back. "His name is Alexander. He's a friend." Alexander approached slowly, non-threateningly, and knelt to Emma's eye level. He began to sign. Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. Her small hands flew into motion. "You sign. You know my words." "I do." Alexander signed back, his movements slow and clear for a child's comprehension. "I'm learning from your mama. She's a very good teacher." Their conversation continued in ASL, simple, childlike, but genuine. Alexander taught Emma signs for friend and brave, his large hands moving with surprising gentleness. Maya watched, tears unexpected in her eyes. In 5 years, no one outside of Maya herself had bothered to learn sign for Emma. Not family, not neighbors, not teachers beyond the bare minimum. And here was this billionaire CEO kneeling on a pediatric clinic floor, signing with her daughter about favorite colors and animals. Alexander's connection to Emma would reveal a truth he'd been hiding, even from himself. Dr. Patterson called them into the consultation room. He explained surgery procedures, recovery timelines, activation schedules. Emma held both Maya's and Alexander's hands, squeezing tight when the doctor mentioned needles. "Will it hurt?" Emma signed to Alexander. Maya watched him consider his response. He could have lied, could have softened it. Instead, he signed honestly, "Yes, but only for a little while. Then you'll hear things you've never heard before. Your mama's voice, music, birds singing, the sound of rain." Emma processed this, her small face serious. Then, "Will I still be able to sign?" "Always," Alexander signed. "Hearing doesn't replace signing. You'll have both. You'll be bilingual." That word, bilingual, transformed Emma's understanding. She wasn't broken and being fixed. She was gaining a new language while keeping her own. As they walked out of the hospital, Emma between them holding both her hands, Maya finally addressed him by first name. "Thank you, Alexander. Not for the money. For seeing her." He typed one-handed. "Lily was 6 when she died. Emma reminds me of her, same curiosity, same brightness. But Emma will get the chance Lily never had." What Maya didn't know was that her ex-husband was already building a case to take Emma. The surgery would be successful, but what came after would nearly destroy everything. Someone was watching them leave the hospital. Someone with a camera and a plan. Surgery day arrived with spring-like warmth that felt inappropriate for the occasion. Maya's terror was barely contained, hands shaking as she signed the final consent forms, voice cracking when she kissed Emma goodbye before the anesthesia. The waiting room clock moved like sludge. 4 hours. 4 hours of Emma unconscious, under surgical lights, while doctors drilled into her skull to place electrodes in her cochlea. Maya paced, sat, stood, paced again. At hour 2, Alexander appeared in the doorway. She hadn't expected him, hadn't asked him to come. His typed message: "I promised to see this through. I keep my promises." He didn't try to comfort her with empty words. Didn't tell her everything would be fine. Just sat nearby, a quiet presence. When she needed coffee, he got it. When she needed silence, he provided it. At hour 4, Dr. Patterson emerged still in surgical scrubs. Surgery was successful. No complications. Emma did beautifully. Maya's breakdown was immediate, finally allowing herself to cry, to feel the terror she'd been holding at bay. Alexander stepped back, giving her space, but his own tears were visible. Recovery was longer than the surgery. Weeks of healing before the implant could be activated. Maya worked at Chen Industries during the day, visited Emma in the evening. Alexander appeared at the hospital more often than strictly necessary, teaching Emma more signs, bringing her books. Activation day arrived 3 weeks later. Emma sat in Dr. Patterson's office, Maya's hand clutched tight. The audiologist explained what would happen, how overwhelming the first sounds might be. Then she turned on the processor. Emma's face transformed. Confusion, fear, wonder cascading across her features in seconds. Too much input, too much sensation. Then the audiologist spoke. "Emma?" Emma's eyes went wide. Maya leaned close and whispered, "Can you hear me, baby?" Emma's mouth opened. Tears streamed down her small face. She spoke her first word with auditory feedback. "Mama." Maya sobbed. Alexander stepped back to give them their moment, but his own face was wet with tears. Emma turned toward him, signed, "Thank you, friend." That night, Maya tucked Emma into their fold-out couch, reading a bedtime story aloud for the first time ever. Emma's cochlear implant processor sat charging on the table, its small light blinking green. Maya's phone buzzed. Email notification. Subject line: custody petition filed. Rodriguez v. Rodriguez. Her stomach dropped. The attachment loaded. A photo of her and Alexander leaving the hospital together, his hand on her shoulder, both of them crying. Caption: evidence of inappropriate relationship and questionable judgment. That night, as Maya tucked Emma into bed in their tiny apartment, their daughter hearing her bedtime story for the first time, her phone buzzed with an email. The subject line made her stomach drop. Custody petition filed. Rodriguez v. Rodriguez. Her ex-husband, who'd abandoned them 2 years ago, was suing for full custody of Emma. The email came with a photo attachment. Maya and Alexander leaving the hospital together, his hand on her shoulder, both of them crying. The caption read, "Evidence of inappropriate relationship and questionable judgment." Maya didn't know it yet, but her ex hadn't acted alone. Marcus Webb had found him, funded his lawyer, and orchestrated this entire attack. And Alexander's secrets were about to become weapons used against them both. Maya read the custody petition at her kitchen table, if you could call the corner of their studio apartment with a folding table a kitchen, while Emma slept peacefully 10 feet away on the fold-out couch. Her hands shook so badly, the pages rattled. Petition for modification of custody. Rodriguez v. Rodriguez, petitioner David Rodriguez seeks full physical and legal custody of minor child Emma Rodriguez, age 5, on the following grounds. 1. Mother has entered into inappropriate relationship with employer Alexander Chen, creating unstable environment for minor child. 2. Mother has accepted expensive gifts and financial benefits in exchange for unspecified services. demonstrating questionable judgment and possible exploitation of minor child's medical condition. 3. Mother abandoned stable long-term employment for uncertain arrangement with wealthy individual, showing poor decision-making regarding child's welfare. 4. Mother has exposed minor child to individual who is admitted to surveilling both mother and child, raising serious safety concerns. 2 years. David hadn't called, hadn't sent money, hadn't asked about Emma's kindergarten graduation or her first day of school or any of the 1,000 small moments that made up their daughter's life. Now he claimed he was reformed and ready to be a father. Court date, 3 weeks away. Maya's breath came in short gasps, panic attack forming. She forced herself to breathe slowly, counting like her therapist had taught her years ago when she could still afford therapy. She called Alexander. It was 11 p.m. She didn't care. He answered via video call, signed, "What's wrong?" "He's taken her. David's suing for custody." Alexander's office was still lit. He was working late. His expression darkened as she held the petition up to the camera. Within 20 minutes, she was sitting in his office. First time she'd seen him truly frightened. For her. She showed him the full petition, the photos attached. Them leaving the hospital. Them at Emma's pre-op appointment. Somehow David had documentation of every interaction. Alexander's rage was barely contained. He typed furiously, "He abandoned you. This is extortion. I can't afford a custody lawyer," Maya said, her voice breaking. "The contract money is going to bills and Emma's follow-up care. I'm barely keeping up with rent. I can't lose her. She's everything." Alexander's immediate offer came through text. "I'll hire the best family law attorney in Chicago. Today. This morning." Maya's pride flared hot and defensive. "I can't keep taking from you. Don't you see? People will think exactly what David is claiming, that I'm using Emma to—" "Let them think what they want," Alexander typed. "Emma needs her mother. That's what matters. The rest is noise." "I'm so tired of fighting alone," Maya whispered. The admission cost her everything. Alexander's revelation came via typed message. "You're not alone anymore. And there's something you need to know about why David suddenly surfaced." What Alexander revealed next would make Maya realize the threat was even bigger than her ex-husband. Alexander opened a file on his computer, turned the screen toward Maya. Private investigator's report, dated 2 weeks earlier. "You've been investigating David?" Maya asked. "I've been investigating anyone who might threaten Emma's well-being, including your ex-husband." The report detailed David's movements over the past 2 months. And there, highlighted in yellow, was a name Maya didn't recognize. Marcus Webb. Who was that? Alexander's typed explanation came in rapid succession. Marcus Webb, CEO of Webb Technologies, my business rival. He's been losing major contracts to Chen Industries for the past year. Medical device partnerships, accessibility technology bids, government contracts. He's been surveilling me for months, looking for personal leverage. The investigation he'd been running privately had uncovered a conspiracy. He identified you as a vulnerability after seeing us at the hospital together. His people tracked down David Rodriguez, offered him $50,000 up front plus full custody legal fees. Maya's stomach turned. Why would he do that? To discredit me before Chen Industries' IPO next quarter? A scandal about an inappropriate relationship with a vulnerable employee, especially one involving a child, could tank our stock value. Web stands to gain billions if our IPO fails. Email chains filled the screen. Correspondence between Webb's attorney and David's newly retained lawyer. Financial transfers. Strategy discussions. David wasn't acting alone, and the person behind him wanted to destroy Alexander. I'm just collateral damage? Maya's voice came out hollow. In some corporate war, Emma is just a piece on a chessboard. Alexander's guilt showed in his expression before he typed. This is my fault. I brought you into this. I should have anticipated, should have protected you better. Stop. Maya's voice cut through his self-recrimination. David made his choice. Webb made his choice. I'm making mine. She stood, paced to the window overlooking nighttime Chicago. The city glittered below, expensive and indifferent. We go public, Maya said. We control the narrative before they do. That will expose you to more scrutiny. The press will dig into your life, every mistake, every struggle. They're already coming for me, Maya interrupted. At least this way, I'm fighting back instead of hiding. Alexander studied her for a long moment, then typed, You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. What Maya didn't know was that Webb had one more weapon ready to deploy. The press conference they were about to hold would either vindicate them or destroy them completely. But first, Alexander needed to reveal the secret he'd been keeping about Emma's father. There's something else, Alexander typed. His hands hesitated over the phone keyboard, the first time Maya had seen him unsure. What? David contacted me 6 weeks ago, before I ever left the portfolio at the restaurant. Maya's world tilted. What? The truth came in careful, measured paragraphs. He'd discovered my interest in you through social media algorithms, Chen Industries searches, visits to articles about hearing loss, my donations to cochlear implant nonprofits. He saw an opportunity, called my office claiming to be Emma's father, said he'd been watching me watch you, demanded $500,000 done to stay out of Emma's life and keep quiet about my inappropriate fixation. You're telling me, Maya's voice shook, that David tried to extort you? And you didn't tell me? My lawyers have been building a case for attempted extortion. I have recordings of his calls, documentation of his threats. I didn't want you to know how low he'd sink. You'd been through enough. Maya's initial anger flared hot and immediate. You kept this from me. Made decisions about my life, about my daughter's father, without telling me? Alexander's typed response came slowly. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was trying to protect you the same way I couldn't protect Lily. But you're not Lily. You're not helpless. You're a warrior who's been fighting alone for 5 years. I should have trusted you with the truth. I should have let you make your own choice about how to handle it. Maya processed this. The overprotective contract suddenly made sense. The thorough investigation, the strategic planning. You were preparing for him to come after us from the beginning, she said. Alexander nodded. The extortion recordings, they'll destroy his custody case? Yes, but using them means exposing everything publicly. The investigation, his abandonment, his attempt to commodify Emma, all of it becomes public record. Maya's choice crystallized. Then we expose everything. His abandonment, his extortion, the truth about why you helped Emma. We tell the whole story, our way, before Webb twists it into something ugly. Alexander's expression showed respect, perhaps even admiration. Then we fight. Together, Maya said. It was the first time she'd admitted they were a unit, a team facing this as partners rather than employer and employee. The press conference was scheduled for the next morning at Chen Industries headquarters. What Maya didn't know was that Marcus Webb had planned his own press event for the same time. With David Rodriguez beside him, holding fabricated evidence of Alexander's inappropriate conduct and Maya's gold-digging schemes. Two narratives would collide in front of Chicago media. Only one would survive. But the greatest shock would come when someone unexpected stepped forward to defend them. Someone whose testimony would expose not just Webb's conspiracy, but a pattern of corporate manipulation that went far beyond one custody battle. The Chen Industries press room was designed for product launches and quarterly earnings reports, not personal warfare. Maya sat at a long table, Alexander beside her, their attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Mendez, reviewing notes. The room smelled of coffee and expensive carpet. On the wall-mounted monitor, Marcus Webb's press conference was already underway. They started early, Patricia muttered, trying to control the narrative before we can respond. Maya watched the screen, her hands clenched so tight her knuckles went white. There was David dressed in a suit she knew he couldn't afford, standing beside a distinguished older man with silver hair. Marcus Webb himself. David's voice came through the speakers, choked with manufactured emotion. I made mistakes. I know that. I was struggling with depression, with addiction, with my own demons. But I've changed. I've gotten help. I'm ready to be the father Emma deserves. He paused, wiped at dry eyes. And then I discover that my daughter's mother is involved with a man who admits to surveilling them, who investigated them like they were business acquisitions. What kind of environment is that for a child? Marcus Webb stepped forward, his expression grave and concerned. Chen Industries has a pattern of using wealth to manipulate vulnerable people. Mr. Chen has unlimited resources and no accountability. This is just the latest example of a powerful man exploiting someone's desperation. We have documentation showing... Turn it off, Maya said suddenly. I've heard enough. Patricia looked at her. Are you sure you're ready for this? No, Maya said honestly. But let's tell the truth anyway. Their press room doors opened. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled every seat. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Patricia stood first. Thank you for coming. Mr. Chen and Ms. Rodriguez want to address recent accusations directly and provide context that has been deliberately omitted from other narratives. Alexander began signing. Patricia read his prepared statement while Maya interpreted alongside him, her hands moving through the familiar gestures. 6 years ago, my sister Lily died from complications related to untreated hearing loss. Our family's wealth came too late to save her. When I witnessed Maya Rodriguez teaching her daughter sign language, something my parents never did for Lily, I saw a chance to honor my sister's memory by ensuring another child wouldn't lose the opportunities my sister never had. The room was silent except for camera clicks. Maya's turn. Her voice shook, but she pushed through. My ex-husband abandoned our daughter when she was diagnosed with hearing loss. For 2 years, no calls, no child support, no birthday cards, nothing. Emma and I survived on 70-hour work weeks and hope. Now that Alexander Chen has helped Emma access life-changing surgery, suddenly David wants custody. She paused, gathering courage. He didn't want her when she couldn't hear. He wants her now that she can. Patricia pressed a button. Audio filled the room. Crystal clear recording of David's voice. I know you've been watching my ex-wife. That's worth $500,000 to keep quiet, don't you think? I've got lawyers ready to file custody paperwork, make this real messy for you. But we could make this go away. The media erupted. Questions shouted over each other, cameras flashing like lightning. Maya wasn't finished. The words came unplanned, straight from her heart. I was afraid to accept help. I thought it made me weak. I thought I had to do everything alone, or I was failing as a mother. I thought accepting Alexander's offer meant I was being bought or manipulated, or that I was somehow less than. Her voice broke, recovered. But the only people who fail their children are the ones who abandon them, like David did, or the ones who exploit their suffering for money, like David is doing now. What happened next silenced the entire room. The press room door opened. A woman in medical scrubs walked in, her hospital ID badge still clipped to her pocket. Dr. Sarah Hart, Emma's surgeon. She hadn't been invited. Nobody had called her. She'd come on her own. Excuse me, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. I'm Dr. Sarah Hart, pediatric cochlear implant surgeon at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I performed Emma Rodriguez's surgery, and I'm here because Marcus Webb's accusations require medical clarity. Every camera turned toward her. Emma's surgery was performed under full hospital ethics review. Dr. Hart continued. All procedures were legitimate. All decisions were made by Maya Rodriguez as Emma's legal guardian. The medical trust established by Mr. Chen was thoroughly vetted by our legal and ethics departments. Everything was above board. She pulled a folder from her bag. But there's something else you should know. Marcus Webb's company, Webb Technologies, manufactures cochlear implants. His company bid for Northwestern Memorial's device supply contract last year. They lost to a competitor whose devices we deem superior in quality and outcomes. The reporters leaned forward. 6 months ago, Mr. Webb contacted me personally. He asked about vulnerable patients who might need financial assistance and offered to facilitate connections between his company and families in need. I reported it to hospital administration as unethical solicitation. He was attempting to use desperate families to secure contracts. Dr. Hart's expression hardened. This isn't about a child's welfare. This is corporate retaliation using a child as a pawn. And as a physician who has dedicated her career to helping children hear, I won't stand by silently while someone weaponizes a little girl's medical condition for business gain. The room exploded with questions directed at Webb's now absent representatives. More witnesses came forward. A video call connected on the screen. Chen Industries employees testifying to Alexander's ethical business practices, his years of disability advocacy, his personal involvement in deaf community organizations. Alexander's former ASL teacher appeared. Alexander Chen has been taking classes for 8 years. Not for business, for connection. He's been part of our community long before any of this happened. Then the final moment. The screen changed to a pre-recorded video. Emma appeared, sitting in Maya's apartment, wearing her cochlear implant processor. She signed and spoke simultaneously. My mama never gave up on me. Mr. Alexander helped us when nobody else would. I can hear now. I can hear Mama say she loves me. I'm happy. Emma's small face, so earnest and genuine, was the most powerful testimony of all. The narrative had shifted completely. But Marcus Webb had one final card to play. The press conference was winding down when a reporter's phone pinged, then another, then a dozen simultaneously. "Mr. Chen," a reporter called out, "we're receiving documents claiming you have a cochlear implant that you stopped using 5 years ago. That you're not actually deaf, that you choose not to hear. Can you comment?" The room went silent. Maya's stomach dropped. She turned to Alexander, who sat very still. Webb's attorney had released Alexander's medical records, illegally obtained, certainly, but now public. The accusation was clear. Alexander Chen was exploiting deaf identity for business gain. He was a fraud. Patricia started to intervene, but Alexander held up his hand. He stood, pulled out his phone, and began typing. The message appeared on the press room screen. "I'll answer that, but I need to tell you the complete truth." He switched to signing, Maya interpreting. "My sister Lily died when I was 16. Complications from untreated hearing loss led to meningitis. My parents were brilliant engineers who believed technology alone would solve everything. They got me the best cochlear implant available when I was diagnosed with progressive hearing loss as a child. But they never learned to sign with Lily. They thought the implant alone would fix her." His hands moved slower now, weighted with emotion. "After Lily died, I stopped using my implant. I felt I didn't deserve to hear when she couldn't. It was punishment, penance. It was also wrong." Maya's voice carried his words. "Maya taught me that honoring Lily doesn't mean suffering. It means helping others like her. Emma showed me that technology and human connection both matter. I'm not exploiting deaf identity. I'm learning to be part of a community I was born into but never fully embraced." His final announcement: "I'm reactivating my cochlear implant. Not because hearing makes me more valid, but because I'm finally ready to stop punishing myself and start truly living." Several reporters were crying. The room remained silent for a long moment. Maya signed to Alexander. "Lily would be proud of you." The press conferences ended with Marcus Webb facing calls for investigation and David Rodriguez's custody petition in tatters. But the real battle was just beginning. Family court hearing was still scheduled for the next week. And despite public support, legal outcomes don't always follow public opinion. What Maya didn't know was that Alexander had one more move to make. One that would risk everything he'd built, but might finally give Emma the security she deserved. And it would require Maya to make the hardest decision of her life. Cook County family court smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Maya sat at the plaintiff's table, her attorney beside her, hands folded to keep them from shaking. Alexander sat in the observer section, not allowed at the table, but present, always present. David Rodriguez sat across the aisle with his new attorney. Webb's firm had withdrawn representation the day after the press conference debacle, leaving David with a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Judge Catherine Morrison reviewed the evidence with methodical precision. The extortion recordings, documentation of David's 2-year absence, character witnesses, medical records, financial statements. David's attorney made his case. "Your Honor, Mr. Rodriguez acknowledges past mistakes. He was struggling with depression and substance abuse. He's completed treatment. He has stable housing and employment now. He can provide for Emma." The judge's expression revealed nothing. "Mr. Rodriguez, where were you when Emma was diagnosed with hearing loss?" David shifted in his seat. I was dealing with personal issues, Your Honor. Where were you when she started kindergarten? I wasn't in a good place. Where were you when she had her surgery 3 months ago? Silence. Mr. Rodriguez? Judge Morrison continued, her voice sharp. You have no documented contact with this child for 24 months. No child support payments, no birthday cards, no phone calls. Yet now you claim you're ready to be a father? People change, Your Honor. I've changed. Maya's attorney stood. Your Honor, may Ms. Rodriguez address the court? The judge nodded. Maya stood, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've struggled. There were nights I didn't know how I'd pay rent and buy Emma's medication. Times I was so tired I could barely stand. But I never, not once, gave up on her. She looked directly at David. Emma doesn't know you. You're a stranger who shares her DNA. Alexander Chen is more of a father to her than you've ever been, and he's only been in her life for 4 months. The cross-examination tried to paint Alexander's involvement as inappropriate. Maya's response was immediate. Alexander Chen helped my daughter because he understood loss. If accepting help from someone who genuinely cares makes me a bad mother, then I guess I'm guilty. But Emma is thriving. She's happy. She's hearing and signing and becoming bilingual in ways I never imagined possible. That's not bad parenting. That's love. Judge Morrison's decision came after 20 minutes of deliberation. Full custody remains with Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez may petition for supervised visitation after completion of court-ordered parenting classes and 6 months of consistent child support payments at the state-mandated rate. This hearing is adjourned. Maya's knees nearly gave out. Alexander's small smile from the observer section steadied her. As they left the courtroom, David caught up to them in the hallway. You think you've won? You've just made her dependent on someone else's money. Maya turned, her voice calm. I've taught her that accepting help with grace is strength, something you'll never understand. What Alexander proposed next would test whether Maya truly believed her own words. 2 weeks after the custody hearing, Alexander requested a meeting at Chen Industries. Not in his office, but in a small conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. Maya arrived uncertain. Her 3-month contract was ending in 5 days. She'd been dreading this conversation, the return to uncertainty, to job searching, to wondering what came next. Alexander was already there, tablet in hand. He signed, "Thank you for coming." Maya signed back, "Of course. What's this about?" He typed on his tablet, then turned it toward her. "I want to start a foundation, Lily's Legacy Fund, providing cochlear implants, hearing aids, and ASL education for families who can't afford them. Full coverage, no insurance battles, no bureaucracy, just help." Maya's immediate response, "That's incredible, Alexander. Really. What do you need from me?" His next message made her breath catch. "I want you to run it. Not as my employee, as executive director. Your contract is ending. This would be a permanent position." Alexander. Maya's voice trailed off. "I'm a waitress with a high school diploma. I don't know how to run a nonprofit. I don't know about grant writing or board management or fundraising or..." He interrupted with rapid signing. "You know what these families need because you've lived it. I can hire people with nonprofit management experience. I need someone who won't let us lose sight of why we're doing this. Someone who will tell me when we're missing the point. Someone who sees the people, not just the metrics. But his typed message appeared. Salary, $85,000 per year, plus full benefits. Health insurance, retirement matching. Professional development budget. Office downtown. Small staff to start, expanding as we grow. Maya's tears came unbidden. That's more than I made in 2 years at the restaurant. You're worth it. Emma deserves a mother who isn't working 70-hour weeks. And families like yours deserve someone who understands what they're facing. Her fear crystallized into words. What if I fail? What if I'm not qualified? What if I make mistakes and waste your money and... Alexander's response was immediate. Remember what you told that reporter? Accepting help with grace is strength. Let me help you step into something bigger. Let yourself become the person Emma already thinks you are. Maya couldn't speak, could only nod. Take time to think about it, Alexander typed. The offer stands. No pressure, no strings. That evening, Maya sat with Emma on their fold-out couch. Emma's cochlear implant processor sat charging on the table, its small green light blinking peacefully. Mama, are you going to help other kids like me? Emma asked, both signing and speaking. I don't know if I'm smart enough, baby. Emma's response was pure 8-year-old wisdom. Mr. Alexander says being smart is asking questions. You ask lots of questions, Mama. That means you're really smart. Maya's decision would come from an unexpected place. Maya returned to Romano's restaurant on a Saturday afternoon. Not for a shift. She'd given her notice weeks ago. But to say proper goodbye to the people who'd been her work family for 3 years. The marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Wealthy diners chatted over expensive wine. Everything looked the same. But Maya felt different. Carla saw her first, rushing over for a hug. Look at you. Fancy clothes. You look like one of them now. I don't know about that, Maya laughed. Her old manager, Marco, appeared from the kitchen. Heard about everything on the news. You landing on your feet? I think so. Someone offered me a job running a nonprofit, helping families like mine. Fancy, Marco said, impressed. You gonna take it? Maya looked around the restaurant, the dining room where Alexander had first sat, watching her with that intense, purposeful gaze. The back room where she'd opened the leather portfolio with shaking hands. The path she'd walked 1,000 times with aching feet and manufactured smiles. Her former table section where her entire life had changed. Yeah, Maya said, decision crystallizing. I'm taking it. 6 months later, everything looked different. Lily's legacy fund occupied a bright office in downtown Chicago. Maya led a staff meeting, confident in professional clothes that fit properly, hair styled instead of pulled back in a harried ponytail. Their first recipient family, a single father with a deaf son. Maya personally explaining the program with patience and understanding that could only come from lived experience. Alexander and Maya testified before Illinois state legislature about healthcare accessibility, their combined testimony, her personal experience, his resources and business perspective, compelling and effective. Emma thrived in school, bilingual in ASL and spoken English, teaching other kids signs during recess because everyone should know how to talk to everyone. The Foundation's 6-month impact report. 23 families helped. $4.2 million raised through donations and corporate partnerships. Media coverage. From waitress to nonprofit director, Maya Rodriguez's journey of resilience. Northwestern Memorial Hospital announced a partnership with Lily's Legacy Fund. Dr. Sarah Hart joined their advisory board. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe to this channel. We share real stories about real people overcoming impossible odds. And your support helps us keep bringing these stories to light. The foundation's success exceeded everyone's expectations. But Maya was about to face a request that would force her to confront the one thing she'd been avoiding: her own trauma. A mother who'd lost her husband in a car accident, the same accident that had left her daughter deaf, wanted Maya to visit them at the beach where it happened. She needed Maya's help convincing her daughter to try a cochlear implant. The daughter refused because it wouldn't bring Daddy back. Maya would have to return to a place that represented unimaginable loss and somehow find words to offer hope. And what she discovered there would heal something in herself she didn't even know was still broken. Lake Michigan stretched endlessly under late afternoon sun, waves rolling gentle and persistent against the shore. Maya stood in the parking lot, gathering courage she didn't quite feel. Jennifer Torres waited near the beach entrance, her 8-year-old daughter Sophia sitting on the sand about 20 yards away, deliberately apart. "Thank you for coming," Jennifer said, her voice tight with desperation. "I didn't know who else to call. The foundation gave us your number. I hope that's okay." "Of course," Maya said, though her stomach churned with uncertainty. "This is where it happened." Jennifer's gesture encompassed the beach. "My husband was teaching Sophia to swim. A car lost control in the parking lot, crashed through the barrier. He pushed her out of the way, saved her life. But the impact, the trauma, it damaged her hearing. Severe loss in both ears." Maya absorbed this, the weight of it settling in her chest. "She won't consider a cochlear implant," Jennifer continued. "She says it wouldn't bring Daddy back, that she doesn't want to hear a world without him in it. I don't know how to reach her." Maya approached Sophia slowly, not too close, settling onto the sand several feet away. She began signing. "Hi, I'm Maya. Your mom asked me to talk to you." Sophia's surprise was immediate, an adult who signed. Her hands moved in response. "Did your kid die too?" The directness of children. Maya shook her head. "No, but I know about loss." "Then you don't understand." "You're right," Maya signed. "I don't understand your exact loss, but I understand being afraid of change. I understand wanting things to stay the same because change feels like leaving someone behind." Sophia's eyes, skeptical but listening. "Tell me about your dad." Maya signed. Sophia's resistance crumbled slightly. Her hands moved. "He was teaching me to swim. He always sang this song when we were in the water. Then the car came. People were screaming. So much screaming. I don't want to hear screaming again." Maya's honesty came naturally. "The implant won't make you forget. Nothing will make you forget. But it might let you hear other things too. Good things." "Like what?" "Like your mom saying she loves you. Like the song your dad used to sing. You could hear it again if someone sang it for you. Like your own voice saying his name. Like waves, these waves right here. Your dad loved this beach, right? Maybe he'd want you to hear it the way he did." Physical description washed over them. Waves crashing rhythmic and ancient. Wind carrying salt and possibility. Seagulls calling overhead. sounds Sophia hadn't experienced in 2 years. My daughter Emma was scared too, Maya signed. She thought it would hurt, and it did, a little. But now she hears me tell her I'm proud of her. She hears herself laugh. She hears her favorite songs. Does it make the sad stuff go away? Maya's truth was gentle but firm. No. But it lets new happy stuff come in too. And that's what your dad would want. New happy stuff alongside the memories. Not instead of them. Alongside them. What Sophia did next surprised everyone. Sophia agreed to consider the implant. To at least talk to doctors. Jennifer hugged Maya with grateful tears, then walked with her daughter back toward the parking lot. Maya stayed behind, standing at the water's edge alone. The waves continued their ancient rhythm. The sun angled lower, casting long shadows across the sand. Her reflection came unbidden. This beach doesn't represent Sophia's trauma. It represents her own. Romano's restaurant had been Maya's beach, the place where her desperation was on display for wealthy strangers to ignore, where her privacy was invaded, where she felt most vulnerable, most exposed, most helpless. She'd been carrying shame about accepting Alexander's help. Internalized judgment whispered constantly, "You couldn't do it alone. You needed rescuing. You're weak." But the past 6 months, helping 23 families, advocating for policy change, building something meaningful, had reframed that narrative. Her epiphany came like the waves, steady, inevitable, cleansing. Accepting help wasn't weakness, she said aloud to the empty beach. It was the bravest thing I ever did. Symbolic release. Maya walked into the water fully clothed, dress shoes and all, letting the cold shock her system. Immersion, baptism, letting go. "I'm not ashamed anymore," she said to the lake, to herself, to whatever universe was listening. "Emma is thriving. I'm helping others. This is what strength looks like." "Talking to yourself now?" Alexander's voice came from behind her. She turned, surprised. He stood at the waterline, having appeared silently. She signed from knee-deep water. "What are you doing here?" "You texted about Sophia. I was at a nearby event. Thought you might want company afterward." She signed, "I'm okay, really okay." He waded in to join her, expensive shoes and suit pants getting soaked. His signed question, "Are you sure?" Her signed response, "Yeah, I really am." They stood together in the lake, water lapping around their knees, an incongruous pair of overdressed people choosing baptism. "You've changed people's lives, Maya," Alexander signed, "including mine." Her acknowledgement, "We helped each other." That's what people do. What Alexander revealed next would redefine everything between them. Alexander's hands moved carefully, precisely. "I reactivated my cochlear implant because of you. I'm hearing again for the first time in 5 years. Maya's surprise showed in her expression. "It's overwhelming." He continued signing, even though he could now hear. Old habits, comfortable language. Sounds everywhere. But I hear Emma laugh. I hear you encouraging families. I hear my sister's memory being honored instead of mourned. Maya's response was soft. That's all Lily wanted, to be remembered with love, not guilt. "You taught me that," Alexander signed. "You taught me that accepting help, from audiologists, from technology, from people who care, doesn't dishonor her. It celebrates her, their moment of mutual recognition. Two people who'd saved each other, neither rescuer nor rescued, but partners in healing. They walked off the beach together, soaking wet, laughing at the absurdity and rightness of it all. Drop a comment telling us about a time someone helped you when you needed it most. Let's celebrate the helpers in our lives. The Chicago Cultural Center's grand ballroom glittered with chandeliers and possibility. 300 guests filled ornate chairs, all gathered for Lily's Legacy Fund's third annual gala. Maya Rodriguez stood at the podium, poised and confident in a way that would have been unrecognizable to the exhausted waitress she'd been 3 years ago. Professional clothes tailored perfectly, hair styled, posture straight with earned confidence rather than defensive pride. Emma, now 8 years old, stood beside her mother at the podium, interpreting parts of the speech in ASL for the deaf community members in attendance. Maya's voice carried through the ballroom. 3 years ago, I was a waitress working 70-hour weeks, desperately trying to save money for my daughter's cochlear implant surgery. I believed accepting help was weakness. I believed I had to do everything alone, or I was failing. She paused, emotion evident but controlled. Today, Lily's Legacy Fund has helped 187 families access hearing technology and ASL education. We've partnered with 5 major hospitals. We've successfully lobbied for new Illinois legislation expanding cochlear implant insurance coverage. We've brought national attention to healthcare accessibility issues that affect millions of families. Visual montage played on screens throughout the ballroom. Sophia Torres, now 10, performing at her school talent show, cochlear implant visible and unremarkable. Jennifer Torres, Sophia's mother, now working as volunteer coordinator for the foundation, her smile genuine and healed. Dr. Sarah Hart teaching at a new ASL medical training program she developed with the foundation support. Future doctors learning to see deaf patients as whole people, not problems to solve. Family after family. Single parents, married couples, grandparents raising grandchildren. All connected by the common thread of having received help when they needed it most. Alexander sat in the front row, signing along with the key points. His cochlear implant processor visible and no longer hidden. Chen Industries' accessibility division had become industry-leading, setting standards others now followed. His personal transformation was evident. Regular deaf community involvement, fluent conversational ASL, advocacy work that went far beyond token corporate gestures. Maya's surprise announcement brought gasps. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that Chen Industries and Lily's Legacy Fund are launching a scholarship program specifically for children of service workers. Waitresses, janitors, retail employees, anyone working multiple jobs to keep their families afloat. Because I remember what it feels like to be invisible, and no family should have to choose between rent and their child's future. Her emotional conclusion: 3 years ago, I believed accepting help was failure. Today, I know that community is how we survive, how we thrive, and how we honor the people we've lost. Lily Chen never got the chance to hear her family say they loved her. But because of her brother's determination to honor her memory, 187 children have heard those words. And we're just getting started. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes, but the biggest surprise of the evening was still to come. After the gala, in a quiet gallery space away from the reception, Alexander asked Maya to step aside for a private conversation. Emma was with Maya's mother. Reconciliation had come slowly over the past year, facilitated by Emma's joy and Maya's newfound stability. Family could heal, Maya had learned, if given space and time and reason. Alexander's signed message came carefully. 3 years ago, I invaded your privacy because I was desperate to fix something I couldn't fix in my own past. His acknowledgement. It was wrong. You would have been justified, never trusting me. Maya's response was immediate. You gave my daughter her hearing. You gave me purpose. You gave yourself permission to heal. Everything else is just details. You gave me something more important, Alexander signed. You showed me that helping people isn't about fixing them. It's about walking beside them. Their relationship evolution had been gradual, careful, appropriate. 6 months of friendship. 6 months of tentative dating kept deliberately private. 6 months of building something real without rushing, without pressure, without the weight of obligation. His signed question came without preparation or plan. I don't have a ring. I don't have a perfectly planned proposal. But I need you to know, you and Emma are my family now. Whatever that means, however long it takes, I'm here. Permanently. Maya's tears came freely. Emma, somehow sensing the moment, ran over from across the gallery. Her signed question, why is Mama crying? Alexander's signed response, happy tears. Emma, with the directness of 8-year-olds everywhere, are you and Mama going to get married? Both adults laughed, the tension breaking beautifully. Maya to Emma, maybe someday. Would that be okay? Emma's enthusiastic nodding could have powered a small city. If you believe in second chances and the power of helping others, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. 10 years passed like chapters in a book written by hope itself. Emma Rodriguez, now 18 years old, stood in a clinic at Gallaudet University, where she studied audiology and ASL interpreting. A young deaf child sat across from her, and Emma's hands moved with patient precision, teaching signs the same way her mother had once taught her. She carried forward everything she'd learned, not just the language, but the philosophy behind it. My mom taught me that strength isn't doing everything alone, Emma would later reflect. It's knowing when to accept help and when to offer it. It's building community. It's honoring the people who came before us by helping the people who come after. But that night at the gala, Emma was still 8 years old, standing beside her mother on stage, interpreting with careful concentration. Alexander and Maya stood together in the audience afterward, watching their daughter with the kind of pride that comes from witnessing a life transformed. Alexander signed to Maya. Lily would have loved her. Maya's response carried the weight of 3 years' journey. Emma is her legacy. They both are. She meant Emma. She meant Alexander himself. She meant every family they'd helped, every life they'd touched, every moment of courage it took to accept help when pride screamed to refuse it. The foundation's wall displayed 187 photographs, 187 families, each one a story of struggle and triumph, desperation and hope. And there, among all those faces, hung the very first photo, Emma's surgery day. Maya and Alexander on either side of her hospital bed, all three holding hands, Emma's small face peaceful in sleep. The moment before everything changed. The moment when accepting help became the beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for watching Emma and Maya's story. Subscribe for more real-life stories of courage, community, and second chances. And remember, accepting help isn't weakness. It's the beginning of something beautiful.